So, Paul, a question we get asked fairly often is the money that our customers receive from their PPI payout, is that taxable?
The only part that's taxable from the amount that's paid out from the lender is a basic rate of tax is payable against the 8% statutory interest. Now, the 8% statutory interest is a figure that's been in place for many years now. It's the county court calculated rate, and only on that amount of the 8% is the basic rate of tax payable. In other words, if you win back £1,000 worth of premiums from your lender, on top of the £1,000 worth of premiums is the interest that they charged you, and let's assume for the sake of this argument that would be £600, so you've got £1,600. The lender would then have to calculate 8% interest rates. Let's just assume for the sake of this argument that's another £400. So the total win is £2,000 in cash. The basic rate of tax is only payable on the £400 statutory interest. Okay, so the amount that you would pay tax would be £80.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure to a lot of people it can be quite a complicated process working that out. How does ABC help with that?
Well, the lender does all the calculations on the basic rate of tax front, and most lenders now have to debit that tax at source. Some years ago, and we've been doing this for around about 5 years now, and when we first came into dealing with this for our clients, the client would be paid the full amount back and then would be expected to make a declaration on the tax return and do the calculations themselves. But the Inland Revenue have been moving through the bigger lenders, the Lloyds TSBs, the Barclays of this world, etc., and asking them to debit this tax at source. So it's no longer left down to the individual to do the calculations and make the declaration. And the taxman doing it the way that they're now doing it makes sure that the general public do pay their tax on this 8% statutory interest.
That's great. So it's not too much to worry about for anybody who's making a claim.
For most people, no. For higher rate taxpayers, they should be filling out a tax return form each year, and they should be making a declaration that they've already paid the basic rate of tax on this statutory interest, and they should declare it and then calculate what the amount they need to pay extra if they're a higher rate taxpayer.
Now the 8%, I presume that can start to add up for some of the larger claims that we do.
On some of the larger claims, you're quite right, it does. And we've had cases where refunds have been in the region of £5,000 for the return of the premiums plus the interest charged, and the 8% statutory interest has actually doubled the amount of the refund. So it's moved from £5,000 to £10,000. So it can be a significant amount dependent on how long the PPI was in place.
And it just shows once a company like ABC starts investigating a claim, customers can be entitled to a lot more than they perhaps initially expected.
Some customers are very, very surprised about the amounts of wins that they've had. In a recent case, one lady was expecting somewhere back in the region of perhaps £2,000 or £3,000. The final figure was in excess of £15,000. So it can be quite life-changing.